Hi everyone, happy Earth Week. Earth Day is on Tuesday and the spring buds are just coming out where I am. So I thought I would do a little video. It's been a long time since I've done an everything I learned from video. And in celebration of Earth Week, I thought today I would talk about the tarot for the great outdoors. So if you haven't seen me do a video like this before, basically the idea is that I look at some cards from each of the suits. It's not a full flip through, but I will link to. I'm sure someone's done a full flip through. I haven't looked down below, and just sort of talk about this deck, and then you can think about whether or not it's a deck that you want, or maybe see if you do have it. Help you see some of the cards in a different way. I will say that I think, no, maybe this isn't true. Whatever. I'm going to just say it. I feel like this deck has dropped the ball on a couple of cards. My overall feeling is that I actually do really like this deck. But there are some things I would have done differently if I were the designer, but I have never designed a tarot deck. And so just take that for what you want. It's just my personal opinion. There's a lot I think I really do like about this deck. But I just, just a few little quibbles. But the good thing, here we go. Here we go. Oh, what do you hear out there? Maybe you should go investigate. Go check it out. Let me help you. Okay. Here we go. What was I going to say? Oh, I think that actually seeing art or seeing something that doesn't jive with you just helps you to solidify what you do think about something. I work with students, and sometimes when we go to the theater, I would actually, in some ways, if we're studying that work, I'd prefer it be something that they don't necessarily just love unequivocally without some criticism, because that helps you to solidify your own ideas about things. He's sitting right on top of all of the cards I just carefully laid out. Dude. No, yeah. Keep going. It's gonna be like this the whole time. Okay. So, to start, most of these, I'm going to leave the cards that I feel like could have been a little bit different till the very end. So I'm just going to approach this. I will say this is a pretty standard Rider-Waite-Smith deck, with the exception that I think the guidebook could have been more detailed, as we'll get into at the end. But I also think the guidebook is super helpful because all of the majors are designed with a specific place in mind, an American park. And I meant to look, I brought this up in a previous video. Are they national parks? Or some of them state parks? No, some of them are state parks. This first one's a state park. So I'm Canadian. I'm not 100% sure about how it all works in the US, but here in Canada, we have national parks and provincial parks. And so they just get funding from different areas and things like that. Any artists? Oh God, let's do a Canadian one. We have such nice parks here. Not that, I've talked about this before, despite current political blah, 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 I love America, and some of the parks in America have been life-changing for me. I just love visiting, and there's just so many, and oh God. So this deck really speaks to me personally based on some of the parks I've been to. And I just want a Canadian one as well. So, this is the back of the decks, and isn't it pretty? I really, really like these backs. And one of the things I like about it is it encompasses, like this deck does, the great outdoors isn't just parks, which would have actually made me very happy. I love parks. But right down to, we go from mushrooms to mountains to the galaxy. Like, the great outdoors is taken in the widest possible perspective, which I think is really nice, because I think if you don't incorporate a wide variety, sorry, this wildlife is just going to keep happening. If I close the door, then he'll make such a ruckus that it'll be more of a disturbance. What was I saying? Oh, just that it's a very accessible deck. Like, not everybody can make it to Waimea Canyon State Park, for example. And I'd venture to say actually very few people, because this is in Hawaii. This is this park I have not been to. Oh my God. Get off. Um, but there's lots of things in here that aren't really park intensive, that are just like literally in your backyard, which I really like. So, the Magician is where I am starting with my discussion here today. So this one, I almost put it in my missed opportunities thing. Like, she could have had some, suits symbols on her leggings, something like that. However, Hawaii, where this state park is and where the guidebook points out Hawaii is an island that really encapsulates earth, air, fire, water, right? Like that energy that sort of created Hawaii. So I get that it's not in the picture potentially, but that energy of the four elements combining, and that she is on the earth and ready to step into the water. Like, I get it. We also have the arm position, right? So there's some little hints here of what we might get from our Magician. So I think there are layers to the card, but I was like, oh, I'd like to see a little bit more. But that's just me. I'm just a total Rider-Waite-Smith girly, and it's not like I don't appreciate deviations from that, although in this deck, some of the deviations I don't appreciate as much, because so much of it is so faithful. But as you can see, it's gorgeous, borderless. The cardstock's nice. Someone commented on my last video that the cardstock was very flimsy in an earlier edition of this deck. The one I got's great. It's fine. And I do really, as I said in an earlier video, I want to try and balance my discussions, because I have now quite a few indie decks, quite a few out of print decks, and I don't always want to talk about those all the time because they're not accessible. I took out the Empress because I was going to make the same point about the Empress as I did for a later card, so I'll talk about that. The Emperor, when I saw this deck when I saw its concept online, I was like, boy, oh boy, do I hope that Yosemite is the Emperor. And it was. I feel like this is such a great representation of that Emperor energy. If you haven't been to Yosemite National Park, it's so awe-inspiring and breathtaking. And the solidity of the rock. I don't really know how else to describe it, but just this feeling like you are existing in eternity. I think it's perfect. So I don't have too much to say other than if you haven't been to Yosemite, trust me, Emperor is perfect. The Hierophant is Redwood National and State Park, so also in California. And you can go and see, if you're in Yosemite, you can also see it's not the same park, but you can go and see giant redwoods there, which is also extremely inspiring. What I love about this card, and is similar with the Empress card, is like, who's the Hierophant here? I think it's the woods, the redwoods, right? And what they have to teach us. But it also could be this lone figure who is going to go back and teach others. There's actually a lot of teaching energy in this deck, really explicitly in some later cards, as you'll see. And so I love that interplay. And I love that it's clear to me that this character is receiving. It's probably hard to see on my lousy camera, but the arms are upstretched. But then what are you going to do with that teaching, right? Where you're all alone now, and now you have that knowledge. What is your responsibility? I just love that interplay of teacher and learner in this card. I love a strength card if you've been here for a while. So this is in Grand Teton National Park. So I have not been there. But of course I know about the Tetons. And I also just, I don't know. I dig it. This idea, there's just so much strength here, right? Like protecting your young, these harsh, rugged environments. There's a dangerous relationship sometimes between bobcats and humans, right? Humans need to be careful around them, right? So that sort of calm in the face of a potential threat that humans can take on in order to deal with natural wildlife that's going to appear in these spaces. I'm picky about my strength cards, and that one works for me. This card, I think, is the winner of the deck. And it's not the only card that has expressed this. I have another deck. What is it? No, I can't remember which of my decks has something like this. A hanged man and a hammock. Earthwoman Tarot, maybe? I'll have to look it up. I adore this hanged man. Sorry, I should say the park. Cuyahoga Valley National Park. I also haven't been here. But I'm Canadian. I appreciate the seasons. I love this. But I think it speaks to the need to be a hermit sometimes, right? And just like to make the active choice to be a hermit. For me personally, sometimes I see that hermit image, that Rider-Waite-Smith image flash up, and everybody knows it. And I don't want to dig through my deck here. But the idea that you are somehow like caught in a pause, right? The imagery is the binding and upside down and leg in a tied up and held there. But this card is very much about stopping legitimately and just being like, I am going to hang in this hammock. And that is my choice for these moments of my day or for this particular day. I also think it's really hard to do if you are traveling and if you go to, say, a national park. It's hard for me. I shouldn't speak for others. But if I go somewhere, I want to like go, go, go all the time. But if you can't stop and read a book, like and soak in the energy in a more passive and present way, as opposed to just walking through it or moving on to the next thing. I just think that's so valuable. It's the winner of the deck for me. I mean, there's some other winners too, but I was just really struck by that active choice to be inactive. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Death, not surprising. Death is Death Valley National Park. Look at this. This artwork is gorgeous. It's really pretty. And so what I do know about Death Valley, and that this is not a metaphorical representation of skulls and sort of scrubby plant growth and cracked dirt, but there is a season in the spring. Maybe we're in it right now, actually. I don't know, because I actually haven't been to this park, but it flowers, right? Like there is this sort of death and life, and that life has adapted to these conditions. So again, I mean, death is often talking about the circle of life, but I think this idea of this beauty in this very rugged environment, and the desert is also extremely beautiful. There's a lot of desert cards in here. We'll talk about them, but I like that a lot. Now this one, I found the this park I have been to, Carlsberg Caverns Park, and it's pretty unbelievable if you go there. But I was like, okay, the devil. Are you trying to deck? Have you given this some thought? Are you stretching? Like, why? Is it just because it's dark? Because you're going underground? But I thought they made an interesting reference in the guidebook, and this one I did have to look up to see why this. But the temptation to touch things is strong when you go somewhere unfamiliar, but it's sort of this idea that keeping in mind the consequences of your actions. And this is a theme. It's funny, it hasn't come up yet. Maybe it's more in the minors. The idea of leave no trace. There's a lot of images here with LNT signs. I'll point them out when we get, there must be one in the ones I pulled. But this idea of what's your interaction with this going to be? And locally where I am in Ontario, and where we have a cabin, it's just on the outskirts of a national park. So we're very lucky. But I go through that national park, and every once in a while I'll see that someone has tagged a rock with their, they carved their initials into a tree, they've tagged a rock, and like, what's the purpose of that? What's the devil that made you do that? That made you think that I must impose my being on this natural place? Like, what is it that makes me feel like I have to do that? I think that's a really interesting take on the devil card. Like, what is it inside us that makes us feel we must establish dominance over that natural environment? And so that other people are affected when we look. Interesting. And very good for this thematic deck. Maybe a bit of a limited view for the devil, but I can take it. This is a theme deck, whatever. This one also almost made it into my, I don't know. I mean, it's tough, right? Because you want to have something from a national park, you want it to fit the theme, but what's going to be the tower crumbling? I think they did a good enough job with this. So this is Castleton Tower. I have not been to this place, but I guess it's an extremely popular spot for people who climb, people who boulder, hiking. But the environment is very harsh, and it's one of the things it's known for, according to the guidebook. The guidebook's not great, but it's helpful. Is rapidly changing weather conditions. Like, you need to be prepared for everything. So whereas my idea of the tower card is like something is crumbling out of necessity, this card, this interpretation, I think by its nature has to be about like, what are you doing to prepare for the tower day? Like, you can't just assume that everything will be fine all the time. So I do appreciate that approach to the tower card, even though, again, I don't feel like it quite encompasses the full just with this, but whatever. Now I can look at this image and I can apply the full meaning as my understanding of the tower. So I get why they went here. So that's why it's not in my, because I just don't know what else you'd choose. I can't think of what else you'd choose at this moment. Like, if you want it to be in a national park. I don't know. Maybe you can think of something. But that's what I do. Okay, the star I picked because it's pretty. Joshua Tree. I do know that there are some parks that are designated as dark sky preserves, and that Joshua Tree is one of those. I've been to Joshua Tree. So I do think that's very fitting for the star. I don't think there's any real essential extra meanings here, but oh, it's so pretty. I love it. And then we've got the moon, the Craters of the Moon National Park. I brought this up. This is pretty fitting, the Craters of the Moon National Park. But also I like this idea of, this very traditional imagery here. And there is a real sense of mystery, the path going away, the wolf, the dog, the crab, blah, blah, blah. So in this one, it's extremely traditional, and they just had to pick which park to put it at. On the sun. So when I was talking with this deck last time, I think I just glanced at this and said sunset. This is people watching sunset. But when I looked up Acadia National Park, which I have been to, but I didn't actually realize this, or I just never thought about it. So it's in Maine. So in the furthest east point of the US. So technically they would get the sunrise. They would get the sunrise first. So this, oh wait, that's not right. Yes, it is. Sorry, lost my mind. So they would get this beautiful sight, and I guess it's a real thing in Acadia National Park to go and watch the sunrise. So gorgeous, gorgeous. God, the art really is really nice in this deck. So those are the majors that I like. Oh, and sorry, what I learned from that is just like the gathering of around the sun, like the power of the sun to bring people together, I think is a really interesting take. Like, it draws us at sunrise or sunset, right? And when the sun is out, it draws people outside. There's way more people walking and in the woods. It's just that sort of energy of life I really like, and how that's encapsulated by bringing people, strangers, together to watch this thing that happens every night, even if you can't see it very well, and happens every morning, but it's still sort of, that's magic. Like, that's everyday magic, the sunrise and the sunset. That's its capacity to draw. So I love that. All right. So now we are into, oh, the cat has messed up everything. Sorry. Uh-oh. Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So I guess it doesn't really matter where we'll start. I think I'm going to finish with the swords because I really like the swords in this deck. I'll start with the cups. So the Ace of Cups. So I do really like this sort of, the aces are pretty straightforward, what you would expect from an ace. But I like the idea. I like where they filled the water to, right? This idea that you've got a good supply of water here for whatever adventure it is that you're going to take, but you could use some more. Right? And just to be mindful of that ever diminishing water, making sure you've replenished what you need. I really like that. Two of Cups. We've got a pair of kayakers, right? So this sort of partnership here. And I do like that it is a nice day There's some mist rising, but you can tell that the water is a little bit rough. And that sort of idea of that teamwork to paddle a kayak in the most efficient way needs coordination between the two. And because I think it's an interesting thing that in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith Two of Cups, they're looking at each other. That sort of exchange is very, but this type of paddling is intuitive, that you have to be able to work together in a canoe and kayak. You have to be able to work together in a canoe as well. But I think, and I also think it's interesting, just that their paddles aren't coordinated at this moment. So is it a lesson sort of going forward? Is it just like a momentary steer because they are working together really well? I think it's a really flexible card. And again, beautiful. So oh God, this one I also love. The Eight of Cups, the moving on. I think this is such a great encapsulation. I'm always fascinated by the Eight of Cups because on the one hand, it's moving on and you're watching this sort of, again, Rider-Waite-Smith. Well, actually, maybe this one I should pull out. It's famous last words. I always get performance anxiety when I have to flip through a deck for something. There we go. This is my standard Rider-Waite-Smith. So like, okay, so we're walking away and the moon has a look. Like it's neutral, but I think that means it could be read either way. The path is not clear. It's rocky. And the cups, though, are stacked carefully as if like prepared to go. Like this is not a sad going, I don't think. To me, it's like I am going. But change is hard. So I think this is a really complex card that it's always easier to stay than go. And even if you do the preparation and hi. Even when I'm going to on a vacation, I'm super excited. The day before when I'm getting everything together and passport and exchange like money currency, like blah, 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 blah. I'm always like, ugh, it'd be just so much easier to stay and not go. So it's a card of challenge, but it's also a card of purpose. And I think, where did I put it? Okay. This is so great because I hate portaging. It's the worst. It sucks. But look how, like, I mean, I think the buddy in the back is more cheerful because he doesn't have to carry the canoe on his shoulders. But he's still carrying a lot of gear. But you want to get to the next spot, right? Like the portage is part of it. It's the lousy part of the journey that you do so that you can get to the next interesting and exciting place. And I think this idea of the portage is such a brilliant encapsulation of that. You getting out of the canoe and you're like, ugh, now we got to schlep everything back and forth. I mean, if you're lucky, you can do it in one go. But often you can't, depending on the group you're traveling with and who can carry what and that kind of thing. So I just think that's a fantastic interpretation. That's one of my faves in the deck too. I also love, I tried to put at least one court card in each of these. And I've got all of the courts for the swords, and I'll show you why, because that's indicative of the deck. The Page of Cups and a little turtle. Oh my God, it's so cute. So this card, there's actually a lot going on in this card. So we have, it's really hard to see, I'm sure, but the little tent says Safe Reef. And then we've got someone teaching people about obviously ecological preservation. So that character could be our Page of Cups. But also this little hatchling who has, now, it's not accurate because hatchlings come out at night, but whatever. Clearly we've got that space, or maybe he's just like, maybe he came out last night, now he's just like booking around, but he's probably on his way out to the Sargassum. But like this idea of, you know, the young adventurer getting into the water, curiosity about the world. We've got a little fish there, just like in the Page of Cups. Like, what a great, there's so many ways that you can look at these cards. And one of the things about this deck I think is interesting is like, who is your title character in these court cards. Now, some of them you only have one and you don't have a choice. But just like the Hierophant, like, are we looking at it from the point of view of the forest? Or are we looking at it from the point of view of the adventurer? And these adventurers here, even just like these people who are gathered to learn about safe reefs, right? They're on vacation, presumably they could be doing anything, but here they are to learn about how to protect the environment. Are they the Page of Cups? Is it the teacher? Is it the little turtle? I just love it. Okay, so that's our cups. Did I really? I feel like I pulled every swords card. I'm leaving them till the end anyway. Whatever. Okay, so we'll do wands, which in this deck is sticks. So 4 of sticks. I really like this. So the idea of, in the Waite-Smith, I find actually the 4 of wands to be a really interesting complex card, which I'll maybe talk about one day. But this idea of a celebration, they're coming out in the Waite-Smith, and it seems like this big, like an awning that's coming out on the 4 wands. But the simplicity of this, I like that he is surrounded by 4 trees. I mean, obviously more trees, but I see 4 sort of prominently featured. The fact that the celebration is a cozy fire at the end of the day hiking. The Waite-Smith 4 of wands is a group of people, but this contentment at being alone and the celebration of a personal accomplishment, I really like that interpretation. Oh, sorry, I did this out of order because here I've got the 3 of wands. Okay, so this is something I really like that's coming up in this deck, is that it doesn't all have to be in national parks. It doesn't all have to be adventure, right? Apple picking, and then looking over, like, what else can I do? Should I just, this sort of very homey, accessible outdoorsness. And there's more of this in this deck too. A lot of what I've shown so far has been very adventure oriented. But I do really like that. And that sort of looking over the land and thinking about possibility while you've got literal fruits of your labors in your basket. I think that's lovely. You can't be a Canadian talking about a tarot deck without a beaver. But yeah, the 8 of wands, this idea of, we usually think of this as like the speedy card, the speed of passion and fire. And I can see how I was like, oh, I'm not sure. I feel like this is sort of a pentacle energy, the work. But it's not just these beavers working. Like, beavers adapt their environment to build their dens, but it's also, or dams, I should say, a beaver dam. But this also has benefits to the environment, right? Like, this is nature sort of working within itself. And so I do like that interpretation of the 8 of wands, even though the speed aspect, or the sort of passion fire, like, this is clearly I live next to a river, so I see beavers like passionately chewing. I don't see them actually doing it, but I see the evidence of it quite often. Again, here we go. So the 9 of sticks, and this too is an interesting interpretation because it's very different from the Waite-Smith, which is sort of about like guarding and just sort of this sort of onslaught idea. However, I really like this. This is a card of perseverance, right? Tree planting. So again, first of all, accessible. But you can see there's a lot of little trees being planted here. And so there's a lot of, like, you have to stick to it. If you know anyone who's ever been tree planting for a job, it's incredibly physically difficult in difficult conditions. So there's that perseverance. There's also, like, you little trees have to, do your best to make it, right? And the conditions can be harsh and it doesn't always work out. So like that's putting down roots and stabilizing yourself, I think, is an interesting interpretation of this card. And then stop messing everything up. And then the page, I do really like this. Because when I think of wands, I think of passion and artistry and like I think of art often, like that creative spark, that creative passion. And I love that it's like interpreting this beauty that's around you and bringing forth a new piece of creative spark through the paintings. All of these characters are painting, but they're looking at different directions, right? They're taking in different perspectives. I really just like that a lot. That young creative energy of the page. Okay, stones, pentacles. This is a great example. Now, I don't think of it as a great traditional Waite Smith. I don't know. I'm torn about this one, but I'm so glad it's in the deck. Because here we have people in a city and they are getting the joy out of the inner city park. I mean, I think probably Central Park, just given the skyscrapers, but it could be a park in any big city. And I'm so glad this was included in the great outdoors. You know, I think about when I used to live in the middle of a really, really big city, and like sort of feeling left out sometimes when people would talk about finding real spiritual truth in nature and having access to all the nature. And I mean, my city was Toronto, and there's a ton of green space in Toronto, so I was very lucky that way. But I think it's a little bit limiting to say, oh, you can only have a true spiritual experience by going to the woods, the rough, rugged woods. Now, the Four of Pentacles energy, this like conserving, like miserly energy, I don't get from this at all. However, I see it from the different angle of we need to preserve this. Right? Like in the face of city, there needs to be balance in cities. And so this needs to be like ferociously guarded and protected. So it's like I feel like that's sometimes quite a cautionary card about not sharing resources. Oh, now a dog's in here. Hi, buddy. But this one I think is like the lesson of fiercely guarding what is most important. And so I can dig it. Oh, buddy, what's up? 8 of Pentacles. Isn't that lovely? Like developing a skill, developing a craft. It's intergenerational, which is lovely. I also think, these little community gardens where you can do so much with so little. This might also be right within a city. It could be within someone's little yard. Like I love the smallness of it. You don't have to go to the redwoods to feel these important things. You just a little patch of grass, a little park. I think it's so good. The 9 of Pentacles, the abundance of the 9 of Pentacles, I think is just lovely here with the mushrooms. I am not a forager. I know I can recognize one mushroom that's okay to eat, the puffball mushroom. Everything else I'm too chicken. I would need to be instructed to know how to do that. But that there's like just under your feet, there's this beautiful life and value. And that abundance I really like. You chose this one because it was cute. The 10 of Pentacles, that sort of family energy, the sharing of the joy of what it is you have. Like this really recognizable sort of photo op, I think is very cute and a good thing. Sorry, I'm going on forever. I guess I had a lot to say about this deck. Okay, so this one I pulled the Knight of Pentacles, which is my favorite court card, the Knight of Pentacles. And I just love this, again, this teaching energy, right? It's not enough to have the pentacles or to have the earth, but to like slow down and really look. I mean, I remember once reading the statistic that if people at the zoo spend an average of, I think it was 30 seconds looking at each enclosure before moving on to the next one. And just like to stop and have someone really explain to you the detail and get the understanding of the natural world around you. That's that slow and steady energy of the Knight of Pentacles. I really like there. All right, swords. I'm sorry, this is so long. God, wow. Okay. Ace of Blades. It's multiple blades. It's a multi-tool, right? Like this can be a tricky suit, the swords. And just again, that multiple perspectives. How are you going to use your intellect? Some of the more difficult, oh, we'll get into some of the difficult cards because this is a pretty soft and squishy deck. But how are you going to approach what is the best for function? I like that. I think this is great. Two of Blades because of, well, first of all, yay, gray-haired representation. But also just like what it means to balance on your two blades, like that relationship, that balance between you and the ice and your physical balance. I like that there's two people balancing each other here as well. It seems to me that he is maybe more stable than she is and helping her to achieve that balance. Love that. Five of Swords. But the 5 and the 8 are linked. I like the 8 better, but I thought I would show them both. So the 5 of Swords, 5 of Blades is this sort of aftermath of a sword fight with people walking away from it. And I see this sort of aftermath and the cleaning up. Oh, there's an example of the Leave No Trace sign, LNT Cleanup Day. But like so there, in terms of the personas here, we seem to just have the people. We don't have the fighters we do in the traditional 5. But what I like is like, have you thought about the aftermath of this fight? Like, have you thought through this conflict and what's going to be left in its wake and who's going to clean up? Who's going to clean it up? Huh? So I do think, while it doesn't encapsulate all of the Waite Smith meanings, I like it. I really like this, though, for the 8 of Swords, right? That idea of feeling trapped, that pathways are blocked to you. But with a little bit of work and a little bit of ingenuity, that those pathways can be cleared. You're not actually trapped. It just feels like you are. And again, this sort of teamwork of clearing the pathway, I do really like. And then I picked out all 4 of the courts just to show you how they work because they're all sort of thematically linked. So in this, not surprising, poor little Winter always gets the swords, but it's fine. Like, so the Page of Blades, I do like this because again, who is your page? We've got kids who are clearly just learning, like in the giant pizza wedge as you go down the bunny hill. That is me in the giant pizza wedge. I'm not a skier. We got people falling down. We've got 2 more kids who seem to be more comfortable, like they feel playful on their blades, like, or is it the teacher who's imbuing that like wisdom on them? I'm inclined to think it's the kids, but it's an interesting take. Knight of Blades, so Knight of Swords, like that fast, that speedy, that accelerated change. So this is a ski patroller dynamiting the mountain because sometimes mountains need to cause avalanches to prevent them from happening by surprise when there are skiers on the hill, right? So this is an agent of change, and I think that's really good. Queen of Blades, like she's a boss. What else can I say? So again, I think it serves the theme of the deck better than it serves the theme of the Waite Smith, but you know, I'm here for it. And then the King. So he has left the ski hill, but he is doing a whole other level of sort of, and he's slower, but he's like working his way through the winter. So, you know, they're all thematic. The Styx is like dealing with wood, chopping wood, that kind of thing. So they're all thematically linked to a particular type of activity. And then here's a few cards where I have some misgivings. It's like, there's just a few. It's fine. I just would have designed them differently. 10 of Wands. Okay, like this to me, the 10 of Wands is the herding cats card to me. Like, and I have it, I didn't make that up. That's brilliant, right? But I stole that from one of my decks that I will be talking about at some point. I've talked about it before, the Allura Tarot it's called, but I'm going to talk about it in a different context at some point. I guess like on the one hand, I could say, okay, it's building the fire, But in that case, I want everyone like out gathering sticks. And it's clearly like they're staying in a yurt, which is fine. They're allowed to stay in a yurt, but there's just not that like the weight of the Ten of Wands. And the guidebook is like, oh, you get together with your friends, toast marshmallows. Don't like it. Although it's pretty. I like the way it looks. This one I feel like is just a missed opportunity, right? Like at first I was like, you have got to be kidding me. What? Like, what? That's not the Ten of Swords. Like how cushy are you going to get, deck? I wish it would show us this situation from the other side. That our main character, sorry, I'm not good at doing the reverse on the camera, is this character watching other people win. Your race is over and you have lost, right? Like this opportunity is gone. But what are you going to do now, right? And you didn't medal, right? You didn't even come forth, right? You are out of there. So, and I think there's something to be said. The guidebook does make reference, and I'm like, okay, I can buy that even if your journey's over, even if it's not successful, it's good that you tried. And I get that, but then I don't know why we're featuring the winner so heavily. What a missed opportunity. And what a great idea for a Ten of Swords to have someone like attempting and finishing, but like not like, did they fail? Did they not? Like, I don't know. Missed opportunity. Boo. Queen of Wands. Where's my cat? Like, so easy to put in the cat. Like, I guess maybe this person who's just sitting around and not helping to chop the wood, maybe they're the cat. But like, I could get more. I could get more Queen of Wands energy in this card for sure. I like that she's active. It fits with the suit. It's important. It's critical. But I also don't see passion here. I don't know. I could get more. Same thing, similar to my Ten of Swords, my Three of Swords. Like, what? Now, the guidebook is like, this is where I was like, okay, you're just really trying to work into the great outdoors here. They're like, oh, take up a sport as an adult. It's really hard. And that is true. But put one of them on her ass then. Like just an embarrassing flub of a loss or like a broken leg, right? So an opportunity tried and missed. And even that, I don't think really deals with the potential heartbreak here, right? Or broken skis or something. But they're so happy. Whee! Like, what? I don't like it. This might be my least favorite. Yeah, it probably is. I just like, come on now. I feel like the meaning of the card has been sacrificed to the theme. And I actually don't care. Like, change the meaning of the cards. But I need that balance of dark and light in my decks. I don't want to feel like I'm just being patted on the head. Like, it's okay. I just don't. Now, maybe I shouldn't have finished with the negative because on balance, I think this is a really good tarot deck. I like it a lot. My cat's sitting on the other half of the cards. I think I paid $30 for this, including shipping. So it's not an expensive deck, and that's in Canada. Like, I feel like Amazon America always has cheaper decks. And if you are in America, like, what a tribute to some of the most beautiful places in your beautiful country with so many stunning spots. I mean, I think they must have really had to think about how to narrow down which parks they would feature, which natural areas, because there's just so many. So I do really like it. I think it's very appropriate for Earth Day. I think I will use it. And even if I end up passing it on, when I'm finished working, after I really, really work with it for a while, I think it's great for spring and summer, which is why I've got it out now. But I do feel very warmly towards this deck. And I do feel it's shown me some different things, particularly that Hangman card. So, oh God, 45 minutes. I'm going to stop. Blah, blah, blah. Great to see you. Happy Earth Day. Go outside. Bye.